Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to lecture number 17. We have started business analysis seminar for quite a time now, and we have already covered like 12 sessions on that, or something like that. Okay, so business analysis has been defined. We do know that what is the definition of business analysis, and what is the function of business analyst. Who is business analyst? The one who is actually working on business analysis activities is a business analyst. And then we have very good idea now that business analysis is having is following one body of knowledge, and that is business analysis body of knowledge, and IIBA of Canada is actually supporting that knowledge, and we have 7 knowledge areas in that, and to this point in time we have already covered 5 knowledge areas, and major chunk of this seminar has already been completed. So let's have a reminder that we have business analysis, planning and monitoring knowledge area, and then we have elicitation knowledge area, and then we have requirements management and communication knowledge area, and we have enterprise analysis knowledge area, and we have requirements analysis knowledge area. And now this is the 6th knowledge area we are actually into, and that is solution assessment and validation. We have completed knowledge areas in sessions. Like the first knowledge area we have completed in 2 sessions, and only 1 knowledge area, that is elicitation. This is second knowledge area which was completed in 1 session. So the remaining were completed in 2 sessions, and this knowledge area, the 6th one, solution assessment and validation, will be completed in 2 sessions as well. So before we start this lecture, and we have a summary of the previous lecture, I just want to repeat that thing, that each knowledge area, there are 7 knowledge areas, and each knowledge area is defined further by the tasks, and those tasks are somewhat equivalent to processes as far as PMI is concerned. The people who are very much familiar with project management body of knowledge, PM, BOK, and PMI, so they in that body of knowledge we are having 10 knowledge areas, and we are having 47 processes, and over there they are having processes over there which are further characterized by inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. But over there we are having equivalent tasks, and we are having those tasks are characterized by the description, inputs and elements, and techniques, and stakeholders, and outputs. So just like PMI, those outputs of one knowledge area may be used in subsequent process or other knowledge area, the process of other knowledge area. So is the case with business analysis. So business analysis body of knowledge is very much similar and to that. Another thing which is very important throughout the course of action, people used to say that project management is more like engineering and stuff like that, and business analysis is something like software engineering and stuff like that. But remember, the true essence of knowledge is to apply it, and if we learn something which is very much practical and which is been practiced in all the fields, why not to customize, why not to tailor it up for our needs? So this is few things. This is about business analysis, and there are few things which need to be discussed. Okay, So let's start with lecture number 17, but first we will have the summary of the previous lecture. So the other day we were discussing about requirement analysis. That is very important, a very knowledge area, and this knowledge area we had discussed about input and output diagram, and there are 6 tasks which we had of requirement analysis, and we had discussed about prioritizing requirement task, organized requirement task, and then we had also discussed define assumptions and constraints, and we had validate requirements, and we have verify is first, and then we have requirements, and one analysis, one task was, there are 5 tasks, and there is another task we had discussed, but the point is we need to organize the requirements, and we need to prioritize first, and after that, after prioritizing, we organize that, and then we are having before defining assumptions, and there is one specify and model requirements. So these are 6 tasks which were discussed in previous lecture. So we prioritize requirements, we organize requirements, we specify and we model requirements, we define assumptions and constraints, we verify requirements, and then in the last we validate the requirements. So all is about, you know, meeting the needs of the stakeholders. This is what we had discussed, and with that we have already, when we were into enterprise analysis, we had said that enterprise analysis not only gives us what is the problem we need to attend, what is the opportunity we need to exploit, and what is the business need. We also actually talk on the solution thing, and then the requirements to satisfy the needs of the stakeholders, and also to justify the investment on such activities. So over there we have also discussed one important thing, that enterprise environment is actually giving us the context to 2 important knowledge areas, and that those are requirement analysis, and now we are into this solution assessment and validation. So we have completed requirement analysis, and we have seen that how enterprise analysis is helping us over there. We are using business need, we are using business case a lot, and now we are moving towards very important part, and that is solution. So we have discussed now, there are 7 knowledge areas, and we have discussed about business analysis, planning and monitoring, and we have discussed about elicitation, we have discussed about requirements management and communication, the relationship between requirements management and communication, and then enterprise analysis was discussed, and then requirements analysis was discussed, and then we are into this thing. So this knowledge area, business analysis, planning and monitoring, has 6 tasks. Elicitation is having 4 tasks. Requirements management and communication is having 5 tasks. Enterprise analysis is having 5 tasks. Requirement analysis is having 6 tasks. And solution assessment and validation, this is having 6 tasks. Underlying competencies, these are actually when we will be having lectures the other day after completing solution assessment and validation. We will see this is actually been described in another manner, not in the format like we had been discussing, but this format is not very much different, but this is about the number of tasks we have. So we are having like 10, 20 and 32 number of tasks as of this 6th knowledge area. So let's start with solution assessment and validation thing, and then we will conclude. This is lecture number 1 on this solution assessment and validation. We will complete this knowledge area in 2 sessions. This is very important, and I'll advise you people to pay a keen attention to this thing. Okay. So as we do know that we start with the purpose of that knowledge area. What is the essence of knowledge area? फिर हम बात करते हैं उसके जो भी tasks हैं, and then we end up our knowledge area on the same definition, and we see if we can now understand the definition as it is written or not. Okay. So, solution assessment and validation knowledge area describes the tasks that are performed in order to ensure that solution meet the business need. So, what we need business need with us. So, we need a solution with us. So, the solution should meet business need. We want to ensure that through this solution assessment and validation knowledge area to facilitate their successful implementation. So this is another thing. So we need to understand that a solution for being successful, we need to understand that solutions must meet business needs. So these activities may be performed to assess, validate business processes, organizational structures, outsourcing agreements, software applications, and any other component of solution. These activities can be used in so many dimensions. So this is the case, and now let's have a better understanding through this. So business analysis plays a vital role in ensuring that the process of reviewing, selecting, and designing the solution is done in the way that maximizes value delivered to the stakeholders. So what we need to see over there is a vital role for reviewing, selecting, and designing the solution. So what we need to do, we need to design a solution, we need to select one, the better, and we need to review. So we are having different solutions available based on our approaches. We may have different solutions, and we need to select one which is actually maximizing the value to the stakeholders for which we have this business need with us and business case with us. So we need to understand what is the need, and we need to fulfill that need, and hence we want to maximize our things. Okay, so the business analyst knows the business environment. It is quite obvious now. This is the guy who is actually having a very good insight into the business environment of the enterprise and can assess how each proposed solution would affect the environment. So we can use the relationship thing, traceability thing, and we do know that if we carry out one solution, what may be the effect on that environment, that business environment, how can we get the maximum value. So business analyst, it is business analyst's job, and first thing, if we want to evaluate what may be the effect, we need to understand what is the current state of business environment today. So the business analyst is responsible for ensuring that the stakeholders fully understand the solution requirements, and that implementation decisions are aligned with relevant requirements. So he is not only is responsible to understand the business environment and enhancing or maximizing the value and enhancing the positive effect and reducing or mitigating the negative effect. He is also responsible for ensuring that the stakeholders, they are fully on board, they fully understand the solution requirements which are there, and if we implement decisions, then those are aligned with the relevant requirements. So this is the responsibility of the business analyst. And this is very logical. We, after explaining any knowledge area's basic principles, we go and dig it more, and we start with this diagram. So over there we can see that this knowledge area is divided into tasks. So there are 6 tasks. So assess proposed solution is the first task, and then we allocate requirements, solution requirements, and then assess organizational readiness, and then we define transition requirements, and we then go for validate solution, and we eventually evaluate solution performance. So these are 6 tasks which we have identified for this knowledge area, and we are having inputs, assumptions and constraints, which is from define assumptions and constraints task of requirements analysis. And enterprise architecture, we need to understand enterprise environment and business environment well, so enterprise architecture helps in that. Requirements may be of many ways, requirements prioritized, requirements stated, requirements approved, and requirements validated. So there are so many requirements we have. So different types of requirements will be used depending upon the task we are considering. And then solution constructed, deployed or designed. So this is just this may be from SOP or standard thing, but eventually we will one of the output will be solution constructed, deployed or designed, and this will be subsequent input to the upcoming task. But this is very much there. And solution options and solution performance matrices. So these are actually our inputs, and then we are having solution scope. Remember, we had designed after defining the business need and after understanding the capability gap, assessing capability gap, we defined, we determined solution approach, and then we defined solution scope in enterprise analysis knowledge area. That was fourth task of enterprise analysis. And then stakeholder concern elicitation knowledge area, third, that is when we had actually documented the elicitation results, and this is the output of that task. So this is all about inputs. These inputs, remember, are outputs of some other task we had already discussed. Few tasks outputs are from other knowledge areas, few are from itself. So it will generate some outputs like this will generate something and this will generate something, and those output will become the inputs to the upcoming or subsequent or inputs to other tasks of other knowledge areas. And then we will have assessment of a proposed solution, and then we will have requirements allocated, and then we will have organizational readiness assessment, and we are having transition requirements, and we are having identified defects, mitigated actions, solution validated assessment, and solution performance assessment. So these are the things which we are having over there So this is all about solution assessment and validation knowledge area as far as input-output diagram is concerned. So we have now clearly identified that there are 6 tasks and we need to carry out, and first task is assess proposed solution. So we will discuss that first, but we will discuss these 3 today, and these 3 will be discussed in a subsequent lecture, and with that we will conclude our solution assessment and validation knowledge area. So let's start with assessing proposed solution, and then second is allocate requirements, and the third is assess organizational readiness, and fourth is define transition requirements, and then validate solution, and eventually we will go to evaluate solution performance. So let's start with assess proposed solution. So this is the first task of this knowledge area, and we need to assess the proposed, this is to assess proposed solutions in order to determine how closely they meet stakeholder and solution requirements. So we are having buzzwords over there. We are having proposed solutions, and we want to assess them, and we are having 2 types of requirements, and stakeholder requirements and solution requirements. So we need to see, and we need to determine, if we are having solutions available, proposed solutions, which one is going to be closely meet the stakeholder as well as solution requirements. So this is the purpose of this task. So solution assessment may be performed on a single solution or to compare multiple proposed solutions. So this is not only about if we are having a bunch of solutions, we can actually have one single solution, and we can see that like how much stakeholder requirements are being attended and how much solution requirements are being attended, or we can actually compare the results of other proposed solutions as well. So one is like 90% requirements of the stakeholders are being met, and 95% of the solution requirements are met. For second solution, the requirements is like 100% requirements of the stakeholders are met, and 70% of the I'm just giving you idea, 70% of the solution requirements are met. So we need to select one through that, so we can have, so this is about solution assessment. We can actually perform the activities of assess proposed solutions on a single solution or to compare multiple proposed solutions. When assessing a single solution, the business analyst determines whether the solution delivers enough business value to justify its implementation. So we actually consider this thing, the value thing, if one solution is there, if that is giving us value or not. When assessing multiple alternative solutions, the business analyst has the additional goal of attempting to determine which solution delivers the greatest business value. So we need to assess if which one is actually going to give us the maximum value. And as far as inputs are concerned, for this task, so we are having assumptions and constraints, and you remember this is the 4th task of requirement analysis, define assumptions and constraints. This is the output of that task. So assumptions may lead to certain solutions being favored, while constraints may limit available solution options. So we can have like 10 solutions, but constraints put by the top management or the external environment or the team or something like that, the constraints are like we can choose only 4 of them. So we cannot consider the remaining 6 because this is constraint. Assumptions, we are actually basing our decisions on some parameters, some future parameters which are not sure. We do take them as a reality or fact, or we consider them as true, but they may not be true as well. So there is always an element of uncertainty, but as these are within, these seems to be within the team's prerogative, so we can assume that the things will happen in favor, so or things will not happen the way it is stated. So this is about assumptions and constraints. And then we are in need of requirements prioritized and approved. So the relative priorities of requirements allow analysis to identify the choices that meet the most important requirements, and requirements must be approved in order to allow a decision to be made. So we are having these requirements which are either prioritized and approved, so and their relative priority is actually helping us in analyzing to identify which choices will that meet the most important requirements. And this is very important requirements. इससे पहले कि हम फर्दर उनका कोई सोल्यूशन डिवाइस करें या देखें, हमें वो अप्रूव करवानी चाहिए. Solution options, information on each proposed solution must be available. The information should be in form that facilitates effective comparison of different available options. अगर हमें cost के ऊपर comparison करना है तो सबकी cost होनी चाहिए कि solution number 1 की cost क्या है, solution number 2 की क्या है, solution number 3 की क्या है, और फिर बेसिंग इसके ऊपर बेस करते हुए हम कोई एक जो है वो उसको हम देख सकते हैं. लेकिन अगर हमारे पास इसकी कॉस्ट नहीं है, इसकी कॉस्ट है, इसका टाइम है, इसका टाइम नहीं है, इसका टाइम भी है, इसका टाइम भी नहीं है, सो अब हम इसको कंपेयर किस तरह कर सकते हैं. सो वी नीड टू हैविंग एटलीस्ट वन सेट ऑफ डाटा पॉइंट जिसके ऊपर हम इसको कंपेयर कर सकें. And this is input and output diagram. So we are having assumptions and constraint with us. This is output of fifth knowledge area we have, and fourth task, that is requirement analysis. And then we are having requirements which are approved. So requirements approved are basically are from requirements management and communication knowledge area, and requirements prioritized are from requirement analysis knowledge area. And we are having solution options through different techniques. We will discuss that, and we want to assess the proposed solution. We will apply techniques over there, and hence we will be able to assessment of proposed solution with us, which may be used in solution selection or design and further things. So this is all about input and output diagram. Let's have the elements of this tasks. So we need ranking of solution options. We have solution options as input, and we want to rank them. So when relatively few criteria are involved, just like 2 or 3, or it may be easiest to focus on those criteria where substantial differences exist between solution options. Those differences then form the basis for the decision. This is for simple cases. For more complex decision problems, a scoring system may be used with sets of related requirements assigning a weighting to reflect their relative importance to the organization. Each solution is scored, and the top rated solution or solutions are then investigated in greater detail. So let's say we are having one solution, and we are having solution number 2, and we are having solution number 3, and we are having solution number 4, and the one criteria is cost, other is time, other is performance, other is easiness of use. So we are having 4 parameters. So one thing is, either we are having data for that, every data point is available, we can have the cost, time to deploy, and then So what we can do is we can put the weightage, like 40% weightage will be given to the cost, and 20% will be given to the time, and 20% will be given to the performance, and ease of use will be having like remaining like 20%. So whatever we are having over there, we will multiply this thing and we will keep adding and we get a score. So this is kind of weighted average thing, and we can have a ranking of solution, or we can use analytical hierarchy process, AHP, or something like that, any decision tool which can be used for ranking of solution options. Okay, and another element which we need to consider is identification of additional potential capabilities. Solution options will sometimes refer capabilities, whether potential or actual, to the organization above and beyond those identified in the requirements or original business case. In many cases, these capabilities are not of immediate value to the organization, but have the potential to provide future value. As the solution may support the rapid development or implementation of those capabilities if they are required, but if this is not done for this particular initiative, that can be used in other initiatives or projects. So we can have those noted. And now we can see if what maybe the techniques, and well, we have this technique of acceptance and evaluation criteria definition. First technique. So requirements should be expressed in the form of acceptance criteria to make them most useful when assessing proposed solutions. And then second technique is decision analysis. Obviously we are making decision analysis, so if we are doing that AHP thing, and if we are defining the weightages of different competing criteria on which we are actually comparing the solutions, so we are following decision analysis. So decision analysis methods directly support the assessment and ranking of solution options. And then there is a vendor assessment, and when an option is being provided in whole or in part by a third party, the assessment of solution should be coupled with the assessment of that vendor to ensure that all the parties will be able to develop and maintain a healthy working relationship. So somebody comes to you and offers one solution which is actually very good. You are actually working and you are doing something on your projects or your routine daily ongoing operations. And this solution, this guy is actually has worked very good, and he's actually identified the need very good, and he's done that, and he's come up with a business case as well. So you are he's actually highlighted the requirements, and you can see that need as well, and you are very much of that point we should follow, and we should implement that solution. What you need to do is, the solution is there, everything is there, everything is extremely good. You need to assess as well if who is actually presenting the case to you. If the person is capable of carrying out the necessary things or not, right? So this is very important. जब भी कोई बंदा आए और वो अच्छा सोल्यूशन दे रहा है, आपको उसके साथ उसकी फर्म की कैपेसिटी का एनालिसिस भी करना है. एक बड़ी अच्छी एग्जांपल है कि आजकल काफ़ी एनर्जी सेविंग का काफ़ी हमारा चल रहा है, और ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड इट इज़ हैपनिंग. So one of the solution I come across is if we can replace the existing street lights which are mercury bulbs with LEDs, so the cost will be drastically reduced. So that seems very good. But when we this was good on papers, this solution was good on papers, and first question we raised was if will there any difference in illumination, or we will have same thing, and what will be the effect of that light in fog. So that was even proved that, okay, so then what is the cost of installment, and then installation cost was a bit high, but what happened there, actually if we put LEDs over there, then they need a cooling system as well. So we not only there is a continuous, and then there are a set of LEDs. So if one LED gets damaged by any mean, like electric shock or whatever, so then there will be 3 LEDs which will not function, that is in series. So these are few things which when we went into deep into it, we've evaluated the proposal. तो उसमें कूलिंग का सिस्टम भी करना पड़ेगा, उसके कुछ लिमिटेशन भी आ जाएंगी, उसकी एक मखसूस हाइट है जो कि थोड़ा सा कम रखनी पड़ सकती है, हमें जितनी उसकी इल्यूमिनेशन चाहिए है उसके लिए। तो ये सारी चीज़ें जब हम करके फिर हमें फैसला करना चाहिए कि हमें बेसिकली ठीक है ये सोल्यूशन तो है और ये हमारी नीड को भी, हमारे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंजम्पशन को कम कर देगा, लेकिन उसकी जो वियर एंड टियर है, जो उसका कूलिंग का सिस्टम है, जो उसके फैंस हैं और जो उसकी इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की जो उसकी अगर एक एलईडी खराब होती है तो हमें 3 रिप्लेस करनी पड़ेंगी, उसकी जो कॉस्ट है। सो एक लाइफ साइकिल कॉस्टिंग कंसेप्ट में हमें जाना चाहिए। एक बल्ब है वो एक दफ़ा लग गया तो उसकी कॉस्ट इनिशियल क्या है और वो कितनी देर तक चलता है, बट उसका जो कंजम्पशन है बिजली की वो ज़्यादा है, वो वॉट ज़्यादा करता है। और अगर यही आपके पूरे मुल्क में है या आपके सूबे पे है या आपके शहर में है या आपके टाउन में है और आपके, फिर आपने ये देखना है कि वो कितना इफेक्टिव सोल्यूशन है। सो जब ये सारा हमने एवेल्युएट कर ली तो उसके बाद अगला सवाल ये आता है कि क्या जो पर्सन आपके पास आया है, यहाँ तक हम बिल्कुल कन्विंस थे कि जी बिल्कुल दिस इज द राइट थिंग, एंड देन व्हाट हैपेंड, वी हैव एक्चुअली ऑफर दिस गाय, ओके, go and start working on that location, particular location, and do this thing for us as pilot project, and we will pay you whatever the cost is, agreed cost. Obviously we have negotiated that. But then we have come to know that this guy does not have any financial capacity, and he was asking for 100% advance, and this becomes kind of difficult for us. Like this is a pilot project, and if somebody is actually asking for advance, so he is not capable of doing this thing by his own. So financial health was really in doubt. So if somebody cannot install the solution he is offering, how can he guarantees that? How can he guarantee the effectiveness for certain time period? So फिर हमें ये हुआ कि ये तो हमें नहीं करना चाहिए, but eventually हमने फिर उसकी प्रॉपर उसकी टेक्निकल उसकी जो प्लेस थी, वर्क प्लेस थी, उसको हमने ऑब्जर्व किया। तो बच्चा सोल्यूशन इज वेरी मच देयर, सोल्यूशन इज फाइन, सोल्यूशन एग्रीड, बट जब हमने फिर उसकी कैपेबिलिटीज जो हैं उसकी कैपेबिलिटीज को देखना शुरू कर दी कि वो क्या capabilities रखता है. So in this fashion we have actually done that. So vendor assessment, I have just elaborated this thing just because if we are having some technique over there, this is not that simple like 2 or 3 lines and that's it. No, we need to understand these techniques can have very lengthy procedures and descriptions and elements as well, further elements as well. Okay. So assess proposed solution. Stakeholders, domain subject matter experts can provide feedback during the selection process or participate in assessing options. Implementation SMEs gather information from experts with specific expertise in solution options under consideration and interoperability with organizations. Enterprise architecture needs to be considered. Operational support, provide information on technical constraints that may limit the solutions that can be implemented, and project manager will need to plan and manage the selection process. Supply will provide information sponsor approves the expenditure of resources to purchase or develop a solution and approve the final recommendation. And in the end, we are having output assessment of proposed solution, which we have actually. We had a few solution options, and now we have very good assessment of proposed solution. So assess the value delivered by each proposed solution. If multiple options are available, a recommendation of the best solution should be made. A recommendation to terminate the initiative even may be given if no solution delivers enough value to justify being implemented. So this is all about assess proposed solution. So we have done our first task, and now we will move to the second task, which is allocate requirements. So allocate stakeholder and solution requirements among solution components and releases in order to maximize the possible business value given the options and alternatives generated by the design team. So what we need to understand over there, we need to understand the requirements, which are solution requirements and which are stakeholder requirements among solution components, जो हमारे solution के components हैं और releases या जो भी हमारे interim deliverables हैं, in order to maximize the possible business value given the options and alternatives generated by the design team. So we need to allocate requirements to solution components. This is the crux of this task. So requirements allocation is the process of assigning stakeholder and solution requirements to solution components and to releases. Allocation is supported by assessing the trade-offs between the alternatives in order to maximize benefits and minimize costs. The business value of solution changes depending on how requirements are implemented and when the solution becomes available to stakeholders, and the objectives of allocation is to maximize that value. And requirements may be allocated between organizational units, between job functions, between people and softwares, software application components, or releases of a solution, or interim deliverables of a solution. So requirements allocation typically begins early in the project life cycle, as soon as the solution approach can be determined, and will continue to be performed until all valid requirements are allocated. So allocation typically continues through design and construction of a solution. And we are having inputs, requirements prioritized and approved, just like assess. The first task we had, assess solution option, and now requirements allocation may be performed with requirements in any state, stated, analyzed, verified, validated, although completion of this task requires requirements have been approved. And a solution designed, the solution design must have a defined set of components, and the cost and effort associated with the delivery of those components must have been estimated. Trade-offs can then be made between the functionality allocated to each component and the cost associated with the developing of that component. And then solution scope. And the solution scope allocates business requirements to components and releases. The associated stakeholder and solution requirements should match that allocation, or the solution scope will have to be revised. So we are having requirements prioritized and approved, and we are having solution which design team have designed, and solution scope, and this is solution scope is the fourth process of enterprise analysis, and then we are having requirements which are prioritized and which are approved requirements are basically output of the first task of requirements management and communication, and prioritized requirements are output of the first task of requirement analysis. So this is about, and now we want to allocate requirements to solution components, and we will apply techniques necessary. We are going to talk on them, and we will have requirements allocated, which will then be used in requirements management and communication tasks, and solution selection or design. So this can also be used over there. So solution components, elements. First element is solution components. The majority of business solutions, with the exception of minor changes or upgrades to an existing solution, will be composed of multiple components. Keeping this WBS thing in your mind. So if we are having a WBS, so first level maybe control accounts or work packages, or second element maybe work packages. So those packages are actually components of solution components. So each component implements a subset of the requirements. Solution components may include business policies and rules, business processes to be performed and managed, people who operate and maintain the solution, including their job functions and responsibilities, software applications and application components used in a solution, structure of the organization, including interactions between the organization, its customers and its suppliers. So these are few components which are maybe solution components. And then release planning or intermediate deliverables or interim deliverables planning. So it facilitates the decisions about which requirements will be included in each release phase or iterations of the project. There are many factors that will guide these decisions, such as the overall project budget, the need to implement a solution or parts of solution by a certain date, resources constraints, training schedule, and ability for the business to absorb changes within the defined time frame. So these are few elements of allocate requirements. And then we need to apply techniques. And the first technique we will apply is acceptance and evaluation criteria definition. A minimal set of acceptance criteria may need to be met by a particular release. So we need to set a minimal set of acceptance criteria which is for particular release. We are actually constructing our house, or we are constructing our software, and that software is having like 10 functions, and we are actually generating, or we are releasing the first version that is available with only 4 functions. So but though the functions are less, and that is just a beta version, but still we need to assign acceptance criteria for that. So that is done over there. Business rules analysis can be managed and monitored by people, or automated by a software application, and decision analysis can be used to estimate the value associated with different allocation decisions and optimize those decisions. Functional decomposition can be used to break down solution scope into smaller components, just like WBS. Process modeling activities in the process model may be allocated to different roles or outsourced to a supplier. A solution can be developed that incrementally supports some sub-processes or activities. Scenarios and use cases, alternative flows can be separated from the base use case and included in an extension to be moved into a later release. So these are techniques which we can use. And then stakeholders, so customers and suppliers, they will be affected by how and when requirements are implemented, and may have to be consulted about or agree to the allocation decisions. Domain subject matter experts may have recommendations regarding the set of requirements to be allocated to a solution component or to a release, and then end user may require a minimal defined set of requirements to be implemented before a release can be accepted. So if that is said, like if 10 functionalities, we cannot accept the first release if there is less than 3 functions only, right? So implementation SMEs will be responsible for the design and construction of some or all solution components and the estimation of work required. So will make recommendations regarding the allocation of requirements and may take ownership of allocation if the decision regarding a particular allocation does not have any significant impact on the ability of the solution to meet business or stakeholder requirements. And then we are having stakeholders operational support, so will be affected by the allocation of requirements to components and releases and need to be aware of when and where requirements are allocated. Project manager are responsible for the work being done by the project team and will need to participate in requirements allocation in order to manage the project scope and work, may need to request reallocation in order to reduce project work or seek adjustment to the scope or budget of the project. Tester responsible for verifying releases and solution components. Sponsor responsible for funding of the project and therefore required to approve the allocation of requirements to components and releases based on the recommendation of the business analyst and the project team. And what we get from this task, allocate requirements, we are having requirements which are allocated. So allocated requirements are associated with the solution component that will implement them. So this is about second task of solution assessment and validation. So we have completed two tasks, assess proposed solution and allocate requirements. So we have considered two, and this is the third one, which is the last for today's lecture. We will consider these three tasks in upcoming lecture. So let's start with assess organizational readiness. What is that? Assess whether the organization is ready to make effective use of new solution or not. So let's elaborate a little bit more. An organizational readiness assessment describes the effect of new solution will have on an organization and whether the organization is prepared for the organizational change that the solution implementation will cause. So effective communication of solution impacts assist in enabling necessary organizational change management practices and identifying training requirements for solution implementation. And we are having inputs, enterprise architecture, we are having solution scope, and we are having solution designed, and we are having stakeholder concern. So first input is enterprise architecture. So it describes the current state of the enterprise, including the organizational structure, business processes, system information, so everything which is currently available. And now we want to implement a solution through our requirements, so that will make some change. Will that change be acceptable to the organizational stakeholders or not? So this is a big question. We need to understand the readiness as well, and we need to assess that. We are going to do that. So our enterprise architecture is one, and then solution scope. So used to determine which components of the business architectures are affected. If these are administration people, or if this is about marketing people, or if they are manufacturing people, or if they are finance people. So we need to understand if there is this one solution, who is going to get affected. And solution designed, used in place of the solution scope if available. If that is not available, then we will use solution scope, but it is advised if we can use that. And then stakeholder concern, used to assess potential problems or issues. We will get those stakeholder concerns through elicitation activities. And we have enterprise architecture, we have solution scope, we have stakeholder concerns. This is the output of third task of elicitation, that is document elicitation results. And solution scope is the fourth task, define solution scope of enterprise analysis, and solution design is by the team, and enterprise architecture is understanding the architecture processes, setup, or hierarchy and stuff like that. And then we need to assess readiness, organizational readiness. So what we will do, we will apply techniques, and then we will have organizational readiness assessment with us, which will be used in defining transition requirements. So this is how this task will having inputs and outputs. And okay, now let's have the elements with us. So first thing is cultural assessment when we are talking about enterprise architecture. So determine whether stakeholder groups or individuals genuinely want the change to be successful. Assess the beliefs, attitudes, and feelings common to key stakeholder groups and the willingness of those stakeholder groups to accept a change. Operational or technical assessment. Determine whether the organization is able to take advantage of the capabilities provided by the new solution, and evaluate whether stakeholders are prepared to make use of new solution. Determine if training has been performed, whether new policies and procedures have been defined, and whether the solution is capable of performing at a required level. And then stakeholder impact analysis. So understand how change will affect a particular stakeholder group. Some things that may be considered in an impact analysis include functions. What may be the impact of that solution implementation on function of a business, and location, and tasks and concerns of stakeholders. So these are few things which need to be understood for impact analysis while we are actually applying some techniques. So what type of techniques we use? We are using general techniques like acceptance and evaluation criteria definition, and acceptance criteria must reflect solution performance levels that would allow the organization to have confidence in solutions that meet those criteria. And data flow diagrams, process models, focus groups, interviews, and survey questionnaires can assist with identifying stakeholder concerns or issues. And data flow diagrams and process models useful for identifying the activities that are likely to change with the implementation of new solution, and stakeholders who perform those activities. Organizational modeling used to identify stakeholders or stakeholder groups that may be impacted by the new solution. Problem tracking used to ensure that issues identified by the organizational readiness assessment are resolved. Risk analysis used to assess potential problems that are identified during the organizational readiness assessment, determine which possible problems are the most important to deal with, and develop a mitigation strategy, kind of sensitivity analysis and then mitigation strategy. And SWOT analysis is used to assess strategies developed to respond to identified issues. And then this analysis is carried out force field analysis, and what we do force in this analysis is a graphical method for depicting the forces that support or oppose a change. It involves identifying the forces that support or oppose a change, depicting them on opposite side of a line. So this is kind of the lines, and then estimating the strength of each force in order to assess which set of forces are stronger. Once this analysis is complete, the next step is to look for ways to strengthen the forces that support desired outcome or negative new force or new forces. So over there we can see this side is the one who is actually supporting, so force supporting change, and this is the side which is force opposing the change, right? So strength of force is actually this may be a ranking, or this may be a, some criteria like 1 to 10 we can have. So 5 is supporting force. For supporting force 1 is having a strength of force like 5, and we are having supporting force 2, and there is a strength of force is like 3, and this is 1. Proposed change to business system, and in the supporting we can have 7, and in the against we can have 4. What we can do is we need to increase this desired outcome or generate new forces, or we can actually decrease this by proper communication or different tools we can use. And these are the few stakeholders. Domain SMEs provides information on the likely impact to stakeholders and capabilities of the enterprise. Implementation SMEs, operational support, project managers, sponsors. So these are stakeholders which are actually engaged in this task. And what we get, we have very good assessment, organizational readiness assessment with us, which describe whether stakeholders are prepared to accept the change associated with the solution and are able to use it effectively, or may lead to revisions in solution or project scope. Okay, so now we have covered three tasks, and those are assessing proposed solutions and allocate requirements and assess organizational readiness. So the remaining three, defining transition requirements, validate solution, evaluate solution performance. This will be done in the next lecture. So we have covered three, and let's see if we can relate a definition, we can understand definition better or not. So the solution assessment and validation knowledge area describes the tasks that are performed in order to ensure that the solution meets the business need and facilitate their successful implementation. So we are actually we want to have this thing. So this is all about that we are assessing that we are selecting one of the best solution. We are assessing. We are also going into a successful implementation if the acceptability of change is there or not, and this is what we have covered, and the remaining definition will be understood when we will be discussing the remaining three. So in this session, we have discussed about solution assessment and validation knowledge area. We have discussed about input and output diagram. There are 6 tasks of solution assessment and validation, and we have discussed assess proposed solution, and then allocate requirements and assess organizational readiness. And we have covered these 3 tasks in, and we have talked about the description and inputs, elements, stakeholders involved, and outputs. And I hope we have learned this topic very with good understanding. And this is the first lecture on this knowledge area, solution assessment and validation. And when we will meet again, we will complete this knowledge area, inshallah. And then we will be left with one knowledge area and techniques which we have discussed and how to apply those techniques. But this is it for today, and we are going to discuss the remaining in upcoming sessions. I say good luck, thank you, and Allah Hafiz.